Welcome to Gossip About Gossip, powered by Hedera Hashgraph. In each episode, we'll cut through the hype of blockchain promises and explore real-world examples of organizations creating the next generation of decentralized applications, which will bring trust back to the internet for us all.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of Gossip About Gossip, the podcast where we talk about real-world applications of distributed ledger technology. My name is Zenobia Godstock, and I'm the SVP of Communications here at Swirlds Labs, helping to grow the Hedera ecosystem. Today, I am joined by Donald Bullers, who is with Tuum. Hi, Donald. How are you?
Great. How are you?
Good. Okay, we have a lot to talk about today. We're going to talk about a lot of different products and things that Tuum is supporting. But just first, I'd love for you to introduce yourself and Tuum to our audience.
Yeah. So again, my name is Donald Bullers. I'm the co-founder of Tuum Technologies, and my co-founder is Karen. We've actually been working together in the crypto space since early 2018. So that's when we met. I was working on branding, developer experience, design. He was working in development, and we were focusing primarily on decentralized identity. So we did that for about 2 years, and then we decided to form our own company. And we did that at the beginning of 2020, and we've been working on software development in the space ever since. And as I mentioned, decentralized identity is basically where our focus has been. It's always been around the idea of own your own data. How do we give control back to the users? A lot of the reasoning for why crypto is in existence and our focus being on identity, not necessarily on payments, is really important because it does create the ability to have a whole new experience on the web where you're putting the users first. And that's been our focus, and that's where we're still building today.
All right. Yeah. And I think people are recognizing, the value of that in so many different applications, whether that is enterprise applications or consumer applications, as people start to think about their privacy and their versions of privacy and levels of privacy.
Correct.
That ability to abstract out decentralized identity is really important. So what is the approach that you all are taking to this problem? We've had people over multiple generations try to solve it. It does feel like DLT has a very different way of doing it that could finally help us reach that promised land. But what specifically is Tuum doing?
Yeah, you mentioned several good points there. One being the many attempts have been made over the years, and we actually have made many attempts ourselves over the past 6 years of development and trying to implement it into different products. So we've built prototypes ranging from chat applications to a more social style platform to working with specific wallets. And it's kind of been a chicken and egg problem to where you want to be able to provide the wallet and infrastructure capabilities to be able to actually build the consumer applications, but then you want to bring to the market consumer applications so that people can see, what really is this experience like? We're used to allowing our data to be stored on large companies' databases, them being complete control. The experience is determined by them. They have to gain a lot of your information and store that themselves in order to provide that experience to you. And the way that it seems like it would be better fit is if you as an individual were able to build that reputation of yourselves, that digital twin, and then you can connect to these different applications and websites, and then the experience is created based on what you bring to that service, and you consent to providing that information. So what we've done over the years is we've built several products, as I mentioned, specifically working on wallets now, which is something that we've been doing with Hedera. About a year ago, we got connected with the Consensus team and were introduced to the MetaMask snaps, which is something that they've actually been working on for many years. And they're trying to extend the functionality of their wallet. So that's not just an Ethereum wallet. It's open to other networks. It's interoperable. There's new services that could be created with it. And we were connected with the HBAR Foundation to build a snap. So we built that, and it was completed several months ago, and it's live on MetaMask Snaps now. And that was specific to decentralized identity. So give that ability to use the MetaMask wallet, to use the Hedera network, and start to use these things called verifiable credentials, decentralized identifiers, assign this information that's usable by the users. And then from there, we've gone on to now working on a new snap with both parties, which is a native Hedera Wallet Snap. So to bring that full functionality of the Hedera accounts to the MetaMask wallet. And this is all to be able to give developers an ability to then build these consumer products using these tools to then give this back to the users to where they can function and use these wallets and applications and use the distributed ledger the way that's really been designed to be used. So we want to bring real world use cases to the ecosystem and do it by providing these tools and also giving some examples of how this would work.
And let's break that down a little bit. So the first MetaMask Snap, the one around identity, how does either an individual or an organization leverage that?
Yes, so that one is called Identify. So go to snaps.metamask.io and you can go to their beta, which is about 30 to 40 different snaps that have been released. And you have to go through a program. It's not completely permissionless yet. Their plan is to be completely permissionless, but they want to make sure that they roll this out the right way. They're using
Right.
the sandbox environment. You're not going to be subject to any of these issues that you may want to avoid. So what we did is we developed the snap, working with Consensus, working with Veramo, working with Hedera, Swirlds, and made sure that you're able to use decentralized identifiers, use verifiable credentials, verify this information. And what you can do now is you can go to the Snap store, you can get the actual NPM package, you can download that as a developer. You can go to our documentation and play around with it as well. And this gives you the ability to implement this into your applications. So we did one test case with the Acor team, who is very familiar with the Hedera ecosystem, and on a health ready portal. So this is a healthcare application. We did the snap using the verification so that you don't have to have a login with your new username and password. You can log in with the verifiable credentials. So that gives the application developers a way to use our snap to give a verifiable credential to a user so then they can authenticate and use the platform. So there's use cases like that to where you can use the Identify Snap. And our team is going to continue to work on development of that. We have some plans over the next couple of weeks and months to where we're going to build out some new Snap capabilities that can then extend the functionality of that and make it easier for developers to use. It's not really a user can go and use the Snap.
Right.
Per se, you have to have the developers to be able to implement that into their applications.
But I think that's really interesting. I mean, I think you see companies that end up facing, big, for example, they have big data breaches or they have fines because they have held consumer data and then potentially lost it, or it has been hacked or stolen. And so they have a liability there. Are you saying that with this functionality, the application developer who is leveraging it does not have to actually hold that kind of PII or personally identifiable information?
Yes. So the hacks and the centralization of the data, those are huge issues that decentralized identity is trying to help solve, because you are giving the ability of the users through the snap, you can allow them to select where they want to store these credentials. So it's natively stored in the MetaMask sandbox environment, so locally, which makes it so that the developers of the platform don't have to store that data. But we also have a functionality built in there to where the user can select to store that in their Google storage encrypted, or give them the ability to store it elsewhere. So then that eliminates the issue of having to store all this private information on a centralized server. But the exciting part about decentralized identity is the future capabilities. So there's so much going on in the space right now that's not really talked about unless you're paying attention. But like Microsoft and LinkedIn, they're using verifiable credentials now to verify your employment. There's discussions with here in the United States with mobile driver licenses to be able to use verifiable credentials. All the advancements that are happening now with Google Wallet, Apple Wallet, going digital with this information. And it just makes complete sense to use these verifiable credentials that you don't have to necessarily have all that personal information linked to what they're looking for. You can consent to provide a piece of that information. I'm older than 21. I've done this, or I have this, without saying, here's my address, here's all
Right.
this legal information about myself. You have these credentials that are proven to be true, and you can know who signed that. So whether that's a trusted party like Microsoft or others, or Tuum Technologies, like a platform that we're building, we're using verifiable credentials and we're signing that on behalf of the users. So there's a lot that's going to happen in the next 5, 10 plus years utilizing verifiable credentials.
Yeah, this is really interesting. I think it's a paradigm shift, right? Because you have,
Oh,
for
absolutely.
years, had said people sort of worked under the underlying assumption that they had to hold all that data, and they put their spend towards layers of protection on top of that data. If you're
Mhm,
now
mhm.
saying you don't have to actually hold it, that's definitely a game changer.
Yes.
All right, so now let's dive into the second snap. So tell us a
Mhm.
little bit about what you have been developing there.
Yes, so this one is pretty exciting because what we noticed with the release of the Snaps Marketplace, as I mentioned, the first 30-ish snaps, there were some interoperability snaps on there. So bringing new networks to MetaMask. There's Algorand, there's Near, there's Bitcoin was a big one. Things that you weren't necessarily going to see in MetaMask in the past, but now can be done in the future. So we already had the relationship with Consensus, with HBAR Foundation, Swirlds, others, and the MetaMask Snaps team, and we discussed bringing a native Hedera Wallet Snap. So that's something that we've been building for the past several months. It's actually in audit now. So it's getting the security audit to prepare the steps that are necessary to make it on the allow list. And once that comes back, then we'll be close to being prepared to have that released on the Snaps Marketplace. And this is exciting because now you can actually have the native functionalities of your Hedera account through MetaMask, which is something that wasn't available before. You had to go about using it different ways. And I think that this opens up a whole new opportunity to both developers and the ecosystem and those that are new to Hedera, because we have great wallets now. You know, there's the Blade wallet, there's Hashpack, there's others, and they provide great functionalities. But there's 30 plus million users of MetaMask that may or may not be familiar with Hedera, and it opens up that use case. So if there are applications that are currently using MetaMask that may not be using the others, now they can. So we've been working on that, and it's been a great relationship so far with everybody involved. Everybody's excited.
And so if you are a developer and you now want to enable Hedera functionality, leveraging that
Mhm.
snap, how does that work?
That's going to work through accessing the Snaps library and activating the Snap through MetaMask. And right now, it is very developer focused. And what you're going to do is we have documentation that we're working on now that'll be paired with that, so that you can go through our resources to understand how to do it. We're releasing demos and videos about how the functionality works, and then the improvements over time of the actual Snaps capabilities will be beneficial. So right now, you can just simply go to the Snaps website that I mentioned earlier. Then you can go and download the Snap and use it yourself. But then also they're building new UI capabilities so that we'll eventually have like a pages on the actual MetaMask application, so that you can learn about how to use it. Or right now it's only available on the desktop or the web, but it's going to be available on mobile whenever they make that advancement possible through MetaMask. So we'll have resources. It's pretty self-explanatory when you actually go to the Snaps website and go to download the information, and on our GitHub. So that, and then paired with, we're always available to help support as well. So we're included in some of the channels, communication channels now with the wallet ecosystem and members of the community.
Fantastic. And so I think that brings us to our next topic, which is, through that work, you got connected with the WalletConnect
Mhm.
initiative. And so can you tell us a little bit about that and your role in that?
This is actually pretty exciting, and it just kind of came about where we had no idea that there was a team out there working on the WalletConnect capabilities. And there were questions coming our way like, okay, how will this snap work with WalletConnect? And we went to our contacts at MetaMask and said, this is what we were building. Is this possible? And they said, well, you're going to need this functionality done through Hedera and WalletConnect. And then we found out actually a team's doing it and they're on the same timeline as us. So now here recently, there's been kind of a coming together of all the parties in the wallet ecosystem of Hedera to where we're kind of working together to make sure that what we're building will function with what they're building and how are they going after these developers and products in the ecosystem to be able to be compatible with them and leverage what we're doing, and then also work with other wallets that are already available. So really it's strengthening what's already there in the Hedera ecosystem, but it's just making it that much better over the coming months. So, as I may or may not have mentioned, we're trying to push really hard to get this available this year. Whether that falls a little bit later or not, it's all happening. So we're meeting weekly, we're meeting very often, and then there's going to be actually a lot more information coming out over the next few weeks about what both parties are building, and even that there may be some discussions together. So I think that's something that everybody, both members of the community or developers, should pay attention to because it's really exciting.
Yeah, and I think people underestimate the value of interoperability when you're thinking about the general consumer or even, quite frankly, the large enterprise that has, multiple divisions and silos, and one may start working on a project here and another may start working on a project here, and over time they eventually say, well, these two things should probably work together. Let's make sure that happens.
Yes, absolutely. Interoperability is key, especially when we are getting to those real world use cases, because not everything is there and available yet. But if we're working together to make the functionality and the option to use different solutions, it's just going to become easier and easier for the users.
Yep, absolutely. So, Donald, before we wrap up, what is on the you have your hands in many things. What is on the roadmap for Tuum as we look at the next 6 to 12 months?
There's actually a lot. So we are right now heavily focused on this Hedera native wallet Snap. So making sure that we have the proper security audit complete, that we roll it out properly, we have the materials available to both developers and users to be able to use it, but also provide feedback so that we can keep building and implementing advanced features is what we'd really like. We're going to produce a basic functionality version. We're trying to produce a companion website application so that any user can go and use the functionalities of the Snap, but then also make sure that all of the developers in the ecosystem are aware that this is available to them. So this is our main focus. We're also going to continue to improve the Identify Snap. So go back to our core resources of decentralized identity, build out the advanced functionalities there. And then one thing that we haven't really discussed much, but in the back end, a lot of our time has been spent building a new consumer application. So this is something we could talk about later, but actually we've been participating as a team as a member of the accelerator of Angel Hack, which is put on by Hedera. And we're building this two-sided marketplace to where once these credentials are created, then users can sell that to businesses or others. So that's going to be using the Hedera network. So a lot of this information is done off-chain where you own that yourself, but if you want to put it up and make it accessible to others, you'll be using the Hedera network. So that's going to be really exciting for coming into next year. But right now we're focusing on the snaps and the core functionalities that are going to be built into these consumer applications.
Super exciting. And I think there's really a need for that, right? I think if you are one of those developers and you say, gosh, I'd really like to be able to verify those credentials, I don't then want to be in that business as well.
Yes. So we're building the underlying technology, but we're also using ourselves. So we'll be able to be some of the first movers to understand what are their pain points going to be. And if we're using it ourselves, it'll be great for everybody else.
Well, fantastic, Donald. Thank you so much for coming on today. If folks want to know more about Tuum, where do we send them?
Yeah, so our website's tuum.tech, and that's TUUM. And then you can also go follow us on Twitter. That's where a lot of our information comes out, and that's Tuum Tech. And then you can reach out to us by email. It's contact@tuum.tech. So anytime, reach out. We're available, and we're here building.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Donald.
Yeah, thank you.